Okay, so to get started, I'll tell you a little bit about me and my career background. So, my name is Alex Miller. I'm the co founder and CEO of Huddle. We're a SaaS manager that's powered by employee engagement and software reviews. Now, to begin my career, I started as a qualified accountant. I spent 4 years working in a chartered accounting firm, mainly working in tax. Now, although this was a great foundation for me where I learned so much from how to prepare a financial statement, how to do a tax return, and I guess how to do the financial planning for the SME segment which I was working at the time, I realised deep down that it wasn't for me. I had way too much energy and I couldn't bear to think that I would be spending my whole time sitting in front of a computer. Now, when I finished there, I did my first taste of startups, and it was a dropshipping paddleboard company called Kmart Paddleboards, which I did with one of my best mates. We ran this for 6 months, had a whole lot of fun, made a little bit of money along the way, which helped fund part of our Europe trip. And then when I came back, I worked in the recruitment sector, focusing predominantly on sales and business development. Now, this was a great foundation for me, and it taught me the foundation skills of business development, negotiation, problem solving, and generally how to think on my feet. But deep down, that experience working with my friend came up again, and I just wanted to be involved in startups again. And this led me to start with three of my good friends, Little Hubs, which is a childcare sharing platform that help families get more flexible and affordable care. So we were targeting corporates and families all over Australia to provide flexible shared care as an alternative to the traditional childcare sector. Now, we sold this business in January, and I was fortunate enough to be part of Antler and now be the co-founder of Huddle, where we're leveraging all my accounting skills to give the CFO better visibility on what they do. So career moves are definitely broken up into a series of sprints, and my career was certainly like that. I would break it up to section 1, which was learning how to do business while I was studying accounting. Section 2 was my first taste of startups when I was running Kmart paddleboards with my friend. Section 3 was when I learned how to do sales, business development, and negotiation when I was working in recruitment and sales. And then the last 4 years of my career spent running Little Hubs and Huddle, which basically covers all the things I was learning before, and then it's just that continual learning journey. Now, I think when I reflect back on my career, you can't replace or pull out any of the things that you've been involved in. Each part of the journey has added its own segment of value. Studying and qualifying as an accountant, for instance, has given me skills and understanding of business that gives me an extreme edge when I've tried to think about how to build, how to structure, how to run the cash flow of all my other companies. Now, when I think about my time in sales and in recruitment, for instance, most people think of this as just finding people jobs, but the implicit skills that you learn around how to broker a deal, how to understand people, how to find the right fits and build a culture within an organisation. These skills translate directly to this 0 to 1 building of Little Hubs and Huddle, where we have to recruit the right team, onboard our first customers, convince people and get people excited about the journey that we're about to be on. And then today, running predominantly as a CEO for the last 4 and a bit years, you just encompass and roll and package all this up into one, and it becomes a never-ending journey. Now, the phase that we're going through over the last 12 months, the major things that we've learned is how to deal and how to digitalise my business through COVID, how to raise capital, how to actually build your co-founding team and then build a remote first team, which was something that I did not believe at all that I was going to do. And now when I think about what this next 12 to 18 months is, it's about how to scale beyond our initial team and help build a remote first and global business. Now, if I think about how I'm going to do that, I will definitely need all the skills and experience that I've previously done. But like anything, you've got to continually learn, evolve, and speak to people that have already done it before. So what's the best and worst career advice that I've received to date? So we'll start with the best because it's a bit more interesting and exciting. When I was first starting Little Hubs, like many other founders in the making, we spent so much time researching, thinking about the problem, trying to speak to customers, building financial models, doing everything under the sun before actually doing anything that was of value. Now, my first investor and previous boss at the time sat me down and basically asked me where I'm at and have I actually done anything about the business that I couldn't stop talking about. And when I thought about it, what I realised is that I actually hadn't. And the fact that he pulled me aside and just that subtle thing, like the conversation point of what have you done, where are you at, it just helped reshape and rethink about, well, I actually hadn't done anything. And I better get started and actually start putting the product in front of people. And if I think about what I've done now, it's exactly the same. You've got to get the product out quickly and you've got to show it to people. Otherwise, you don't have a company, you've just got an idea and you can fall into the trap similar to many other people. Now, if I think about the worst advice I received to date, and potentially it wasn't the worst advice, but at the time, I was very unsure about my path. My old boss had called me up and asked me to come back and be the financial controller / CFO of the company I was working for before. Now, I'd moved into recruitment, I'd identified that accounting wasn't for me, although I loved it. There was much better accountants in the market and I was much better at working across sales and business development, which is why I moved into a role that was focused on that. Now, when I spoke to most of my family, friends and parents at the time, they told me I was crazy for going down this path and I should go back into accounting. But the reality is, you've got to, at least at some point, back yourself and realise that you're not going to succeed in this path. So what do I wish I knew when I started my career? So there's a lot of things that would have helped, but the one thing that would have made a huge difference is that you don't need to have a degree or the specific experience to get into or to start something that you want to do. Now, when I started university, it was very common that you needed to spend 3 years studying, spend another 2.5 or 3 years qualifying, in my case, as an accountant, before you could actually start adding any type of value. And that seems to be a very traditional path in the corporate arena. Now, since I made the transition working and helping build and start scale-ups and startups, the big thing is you don't need to have all the answers. You just need to have a hypothesis, a way to test it, and then that feedback loop to keep iterating what you're doing. Now, this just makes a phenomenal amount of difference. And if you think about how much information is online, you can access all forms of content. You can read from industry experts, and you can gain so much knowledge beyond what you could do by doing university. If I think about the time that I spent in tutorials and lectures, thinking about and studying about accounting history, which I've never used since, if I rechanneled or refocused my time learning about growth marketing, how to do SEO, how to build a following on YouTube, for instance, this would put me in a much stronger light. So my advice is, if you're passionate about something, research, Google it, and you'll get to a much better outcome. Don't rely on traditional avenues to learn. So what's the biggest mistake I've made to date? Now, fortunately, there's nothing that haunts me that I really regret. But there's one thing that I just wish that I did when I was younger. When I finished school, my dream was to go overseas and play college tennis. Friends that I grew up with had gone and done that path. I went to university, and then although the opportunity was there, I just never went through with it and did it. And it's something still to this day that I regret. And if I think about the opportunities that could have been, all the people we would have met, the opportunity to potentially work overseas, it was something that I should have just bit the bullet and done. So I think anyone listening to this that is studying, that has got the opportunity to even just do like a semester or a session overseas, I highly recommend trying to take that opportunity because it's something I really wish I did. What's been the key to my success to date? Now, I still think I'm far from successful as there's so many things that I still want to do. But the one thing that I would tie it back to that's helped me do a lot of the things that I've done to date is by just being persistent, being true to my word, and being completely relentless basically until what I want to do. Now, this is basically a skill that I learned from the very beginning of being in recruitment. Things just don't happen. And this translates so well to business. And when you're starting your own company, you're in charge of your own success. And if you're not going to do it, nobody else is. And there's a great example that I still think of really fondly. When I first started Little Hubs, I had a dream of trying to establish a partnership with one of the top tier childcare groups in Australia. And during that period, I saw the CEO write in the AFR. I didn't agree at all what he was saying, and I thought if I could only get in touch with him, I'll pitch him my idea. And that's exactly what I did. And after 1, 2, and I think potentially 3 replies, He finally got back to me. And then when he flew down to Sydney a month later, we met. And then 6 months beyond that, we ended up setting up a partnership together. Now, these things wouldn't have happened if I rested on my laurels or waited for him to come to me. And after the follow-up persistence and really thinking about what the value add, not just for me, but also for them, it really just positioned the partnership and the reason why I was getting in touch to be much more strong. And I guess that's something which I do try and translate and think about in every partnership or in every commercial deal that I look in. It's what's the win-win for both parties? Because if you're only pitching something that's valuable for you, the other party's not going to get excited. So if you can position and create something that they're going to get excited about too, you're going to position yourself and be in a much better place to succeed.